Hey guys, Dadtries, and today I have the Bloodline. The Bloodline was recommended to me by a close friend who often actually appears in many of my videos, so thank you. And one little administrative note, if I sound a little different in this video, it's because I am sick. 'Tis the season here in the Northern Hemisphere, and it sucks. But internet strangers do not care about my well-being, so let's get into the game. Bloodline describes itself as a sandbox role-playing adventure game by Shieldbearer Studios. I purchased the Bloodline for $20, and I've currently got about 15 hours into it. And there is just a ton that I'm not going to be able to attest to or speak to. There's a lot that I just know exists but haven't tried yet or haven't had a chance to do. And then there's another handful of things, and by handful I mean a lot of stuff that they just haven't put into the game yet. There's a lot that they will tell you is coming in the game by simply putting it there, but in little parentheses it'll actually say that it's coming soon. The Bloodline released in early access on October 5th of this year, and it looks like it's actually been getting some pretty steady updates. I can look through the history, and I see that it's pretty regularly receiving updates, which is awesome because there's so clearly so much to be done in the Bloodline. But that's also kind of a downfall of the game. It seems every time I turn a corner, there's something that's really neat and something that looks really exciting to play, but it's just not there yet. I think there's a lot of ambition for the game, and hopefully they continue to put the amount of work they've been putting into it. The whole premise of the game is to let you really do what you want. You start with a stronghold, and there's a bunch of areas outside of it and a ton of building options that you can make. So the first building that they ask you to do as part of the tutorial is to build a bakery. And once you've built the bakery, you can go and you can buy apple pies and other kinds of things. And the apple pies are extremely OP. They restore like 300 hit points or something like that. It's silly. And you're going to find a lot of that. There's a lot that's just broken in the game or completely unbalanced. And at this point, it's okay. You just know that you will run into some of that stuff. If that's a game breaker for you, then definitely avoid the Bloodline because there's a ton of bugs. In fact, the sword that I'm using through most of my gameplay right now, I can't seem to fix it. It's actually a spell, and this spell was only supposed to last 35 seconds, but I broke it somehow, and no matter what I do, I just end up with this magical sword that's supposed to disappear in 35 seconds, but I can't make it go away. But it's really good, so I'm not all that worried about it. But anyways, you essentially get to build your entire kingdom from the ground up. You start with, like I said, just that stronghold, and there's a bunch of places for you to build buildings. And depending on what you build, it's going to attract different kinds of people, and the different people that come to your stronghold are going to bring different goods and services. So you're really tailoring your entire experience to the decisions and the way you build your character, which I think is a really neat touch. Outside of that, there's also just a regular building crafting system, so you can build things like fences and walls and other things like that at will. And again, a very good touch. A lot of customization that you can do to your kingdom. You essentially end up being the lord of your stronghold that you've built from the ground up, just from everything that you've been able to gather and mine. There's also a reading system, or I guess a translation system, so you can actually find different books that are accustomed to the spells and abilities that you're trying to learn as a character, and you actually have to end up learning and memorizing a fictional alphabet, and I spent an embarrassing amount of time. I'm not even going to tell you how long I spent just reading books. It was actually really fun. The alphabet's pretty easy to memorize, and once you get it, it's just kind of free experience, and it was really a lot of fun. It makes you kind of a little more invested in the particular kind of magic that you're doing. My character that I'm playing through right now is actually focusing on blood magic, which is really sweet. I've got things like corpse explosion. I can take over bodies. I can drain life of people. That crazy sword that I have is made of blood. It's really neat. There's a lot of cool stuff that you can do. But on that note, most of these skill trees are not complete yet, so it's worth looking at the skill trees before you actually commit to one. I mean, worst case scenario, you commit to multiple different skill trees. The only downside is you can really only have 10 abilities ready to go at one time. You have to change them out with the control key, and it swaps your abilities. The rest of the gameplay is kind of like Bannerlords as far as how you travel around the map. There will be random mobs that spawn around, and they'll chase you around the map. Thankfully, I haven't found a mob that I couldn't just outrun or outwalk, I guess. You don't have to run, But there's really, if you see a mob and you don't want to fight them, you just kind of go around them and they can't catch up with you. So I don't know, maybe they'll do something with that. It doesn't really feel very dangerous. There were a couple times when I actually got kind of sick of waiting for the fast travel, so I clicked on where I wanted to go on the map and just walked away because I was so certain that nothing would bother me. If they somehow manage to corner you, or you just feel like fighting them by clicking on their little icon on the map, you get into combat. They start much closer than they would in Bannerlord, so just be careful for that. They're definitely right on top of you as soon as you start combat. And the combat's really good. It's actually satisfying to watch the goblins and the bandits and stuff ragdoll around. They did a fantastic job. The spells and abilities are very good. There's a lot of unique things that you're going to see in the Bloodline, so that brings a lot of value to the game in itself. It currently has no Steam Deck support. Steam at this time says that it's still gathering information on the game. What I can say is I tried it, and the control mappings are there. You can tell that it's something that they're working on. I think this game will be Steam Deck verified in the future. Currently, it's not there. Don't bother. The Steam Deck just really can't run it. Actually, my tower has some pretty significant issues in a lot of the scenarios with some frame rate issues. I wouldn't recommend running the game in anything over 1080p. Normally, I run at 2K. But I was getting some significant frame rate drops. I'm not sure if maybe the game has a memory leak or something, but it also seems like the longer I'm in an area, the worse my performance is over time. You can kind of steadily watch your frame rates go down to a point where there was a dungeon where I was getting about 9 frames a second, and it was just terrible. My rig is not brand new, however. I'm running a 7700K with a 1080 Ti, so it's not a brand new rig, but looking at this game, I should be able to run it pretty smoothly, even at 2K. Though now that I've said that, someone is going to come and tell me that I shouldn't be able to play any modern games, so I'll just, deal with that when the time comes. But I know, look, I need a new PC, but things cost money, okay? But the moral of the story is this game is just terribly optimized. They have a lot of work to do in that department. And I think once they've really gone back and fixed up some of those things, then yeah, it's going to be great on the Steam Deck. There's also no Steam Cloud support, so that kind of stinks, going back and forth between my desktop and my laptop and the Steam Deck. I had to manually transfer my save, and that was kind of a pain. It's in your local app data folder under the Bloodline, so if you do need to do that, that's where it is. And also, I can't seem to find a good matching mouse sensitivity or mouse profile for the game. You can turn the slider up and down in the game, and it seems to really help, but then when you get into a menu that you're just selecting options or navigating your inventory, the mouse is way too slow. I also have adjustable DPI on my mouse, so I found myself constantly having to change the DPI on my mouse to match the menu that I was current to work in. And then once combat came around, or I was in the open world, it was just way too sensitive, and I couldn't look or do anything. It was really hard, so I think they have a lot of work to do in the mouse acceleration portion of the game. And it could be me as well. I'm not very good at most things that I play, so it could very well be me, but I don't know. I've never had this specific issue in other games. It seems pretty specific to the Bloodline. My overall closing thoughts on the Bloodline is it's $20. It's very broken, but it's very fun. I've got 14 or 15 hours into it at the point of this review, and I'm not done. I think that there's a lot more I'm going to get out of this. I'll definitely get my $20 worth, but it is super broken, so it's at least worth putting on your wish list and checking maybe it goes on sale, or keep up with their updates. Maybe you're waiting for a specific thing to get fixed or added to the game. That's very reasonable. There is a lot to come, and even in its current extremely broken state, it is still 3 times the game that the day before is. So have a good one. Thanks for watching. I really look forward to the comments. Let me know what you think, and have a great rest of your day.